This is the voice of the New York Football Giants, Bob Papa, and you are listening to the best throughout Europe, the Big Blue UK and Ireland podcast.
Welcome back, Giants fans, to the latest edition of the Big Blue UK and Ireland podcast. As always, in association with Andy's Man Club. Lads, remember, it is okay to talk. This episode, as you can see, we are 100% British, but as always, for some reason, 100% Giants. Dan and Kev are unavailable due to work, so joining me for this one, Shane and Aaron. Don't know about you two, but I was so annoyed last night. It ruined my entire evening, and I went to bed proper pissed off. But we'll kind of get into the specifics in a minute. But Shane, how are we doing?
I'm doing. I think what Craig means is Dan and Kev are lucky enough not to be on here tonight. They get to swerve this one. Obviously, I don't know if it got mentioned last. I'll be honest with you, I've not listened to any podcasts that you've done over the last 2 weeks because I never got round to listening to the Chargers preview, and then we won. So then that was it. I was in superstitious mode. I was like, I can't listen to it again. Look, I can't listen to it until we then lose. So obviously that's why I was not on kind of last week, and I was, in first quarter day, and I was like, I'm not going to be on again for this week. If we win, I can't then come on. You just can't do it. And then we had that fucking absolute shit show that made me just turn my TV off and think, why do I fucking like sports? Because sports has been horrendous for me this weekend. Like, God has given me a big fingers up fuck you to me this weekend.
Well, at least you've got a college football team that you can enjoy. I mean, Kev had a big win this weekend for his team. How does your team do?
Oh, there's enough of that. Let's not even go there. Shane will disconnect.
Same as the NFL team did. Same as the fucking football team in England did. Like, I just don't know where I fucking like genuinely like. My joy this weekend was the Knicks winning a fucking preseason game. You know what I mean? Like. I know he's not on here and I don't follow the sport. I think Holt's a baseball fan. From what I understand, I don't think the Yankees did very well either. And I know Keith's in. I don't think the Mets did very well. It just seemed like it was an absolute fucking shit show for 95% of Giants fans this weekend.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. It's not been pretty. And Shane's already broken the expletive word count for the entire season so far with his intro on tonight's podcast. So, for those who are listening,
I might be setting a record tonight, Craig.
I was about to say, for those of a nervous disposition or sensitive ears, you might want to skip this one. And on that note, if you are watching this on YouTube, X or Facebook, do get involved in the comments, like this video, subscribe if you aren't already, hit the notification bell to know when we go live. Also, make sure all you audio listeners to rate us on your podcast platform of choice. Aaron's going to have to hold his hand very high in the air this time, but 5 stars. Thank you very, very much. Because this review is the day after the game, there isn't a lot of usual news, so we're just going to kind of crack into it. A week removed from the surprising win over the Chargers, the Giants decided the best way to follow it up was to shit the bed and become yet again the laughing stock of the league as they decided to embarrass themselves, at least for a few hours before the Cardinals decided to play. Aaron will touch on this a bit more shortly, but the Giants started well and were up 14-3 early in the second quarter, the first time since November 2020 against the Eagles that the Giants had scored 2 touchdowns on their first 2 drives. However, what followed was nothing short of embarrassment, with the Saints eventually scoring 23 points unanswered to win 26-14. 5 total turnovers to the Saints 0 were a big part of it, especially when 4 of them had a swing of 28 expected points, but there was much more than that. We had drops, we had penalties as well, which also contributed. The latter giving the Saints 95 yards, 60 yards from the defence on 3 DPI calls, which I've got a feeling those 60 yards were about a third of the Saints' offence in that first half, just through our defenders. And then 35 yards worth of penalties on our offence, most of them late in the game on Jermaine Illuminor. And there should have been another 10, but the Saints declined one of those penalties. Go on, Aaron. Kev's not here with us, so you are solo on offence, and I'm sure there's a lot to talk about.
Yeah, so it was a bit of a Jekyll and Hyde game, really. So the Giants' offence made the perfect start. 2 9-play drives resulting in Theo Johnson touchdowns, giving us a 14-3 lead early in Q2, which I think you said it was the first time since November 22 that we scored on touchdowns back to back on opening drives. So
2020.
2020, yeah. So a bit of a collector's item, and it's kind of like that perfect start. Opening drive, Dart went 5 for 5. Wandale and forgotten man Daniel Bellinger grabbing 2 each. A 6-yard scramble from Dart, 2 carries from Cam Scatterboot, and then the 1-yard touchdown pass to Theo, where we all thought this is going to be a handoff to number 44, and they pull it, dink it over the top. Theo's wide open in the end zone, touchdown Giants. 1 play inside the red zone, 1 touchdown. What have we, we've been saying about red zone offense? 1 play, 1 touchdown. It was, perfect start. And then, well, how did you do better than that? Well, the second drive, you go 3 for 4 in passing. Bellinger and Slayton, and a 15-yard touchdown pass to Theo Johnson, which was on a 3rd and 8. So it's inside the red zone again. Carries of 9 yards for Cam Scatterboot and a 20-yard scramble from Dart. Quick 3-minute 30 drive resulted in that scoring play to Theo Johnson. 2 red zone visits, 2 touchdowns, and with 13 minutes and 1 left in the first half, it was almost a perfect performance from the offense. However, the Giants wouldn't see the red zone until late in the 3rd quarter, and then 1 final visit in the red zone right at the end of the game with 1:05 remaining. But the game had completely gone at that point. The Giants went, after those first 2 scoring drives, punt, fumble, 6, interception, turnover on downs. That was the remainder of the game from the offense. That's 5, not just the number of stars you should give this podcast, but 5 interceptions that we gave away in a game. And I mentioned last week and for the preview for the Chargers, which Shane didn't listen to, and the review, we have to play complementary football. When you've got a rookie quarterback, we need to play complementary football. The offense has to help the defense out. The defense has to help offense, special teams. All of this kind of stuff has to happen. 5 turnovers is not complementary football, and this was a real big problem in the game. It can literally only be summarised as giving the game away. The first fumble, in my opinion, maybe have been the worst. So following a missed field goal by the Saints, the Giants were looking for a quick score to restore a 4-point lead at the half. Thanks, Keith. That was a good one.
Yeah. Just to read Keith's comment out. Let's derailed Aaron's train of thought there. Punt, fumble, punt. That was my dating history in the early 20s, to be fair.
Yeah. So the Slayton fumble was probably the worst. So we're trying to restore a 4-point lead, get the ball, and we're getting the ball back at the start of the second half. There's a really chance to go and put like that 2-score lead on them. Slayton takes a 9-yard reception from Dart to get inside the New Orleans 35 with less than a minute to go, but in fighting for some extra yardage, which wasn't needed necessarily on that down. We had time. We weren't rushing. We had plenty of time on the clock. just fighting for that extra yard. It gets the ball dislodged, and the Saints managed to return that to our 41, resulting in the Saints leading 16-14 at half. And that was a real crucial ball. We went from probably leading 17-13, may have even been 21-13 with the amount of time that we had left, to actually trailing 16-14 at the half. And then we got 2 rookie errors. So Dart inexplicably dropping the ball while trying to scramble and resulting in a turnover, and then Cam Scatterboo having the ball punched out by Brazil when he beats Illuminor to the inside on a run play, and it's scooped up and returned 84 yards for a Saints touchdown. So that was a real dagger. It looked like we were about to score a touchdown to restore a lead, but just that touchdown going the other way, just an absolute dagger to where we were in the game. And then again, this complementary football, the last thing you want is a rookie QB missing its star wide receiver. We'd also lost Slayton to a hamstring injury. We had 2 interceptions occur on deep passes intended for both, one for Hyatt, one for Bo Collins. Both guys that had minimal snaps coming into yesterday. So, we were backup wide receivers, rookie quarterback in his second start, first road start in one of the loudest stadiums, and we're trying to play from behind. It's just not a good mix.
Just on that one for you, Aaron. So that second interception that Dart throws, obviously Collins stops. He stops, doesn't he? He stops his route, and that's what kind of leads to it. That's essentially what's costing us, is the fact that we're having to have rookies out there who maybe don't know how to play the fundamentals right now, and that offense is made up of so many rookies, especially in the offensive weapon position, that it's kind of we have to expect these almost. But that second one is definitely not on Dart, is it?
No. And to be honest, even the first one wasn't a bad one. It was a 4th down. He's taking a shot, and actually the pick gave us better field position, because if Kool-Aid drops that, they get the ball back at the 40-yard line. So it wasn't the smartest interception to throw. Obviously, you don't want to see the guy throwing interceptions. You want to see him throwing touchdowns. But as it happens, they weren't horrendous interceptions from a quarterback point of view, from a quarterback analysis point of view. That's really where I was going next. Was Dart finished with 202 yards, 26 of 40, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He added 55 yards and 7 rush attempts. Most of them were scrambles. There was at least one design draw in there. It definitely felt like a rookie signal caller in this game, although one that shows a lot of promise. There were a few times where he would lock on to one side of the field, go through his progressions on that side, and then decide to scramble. And there were a couple of times where I thought he scrambled when there was maybe an easy dump off. Didn't take any major hits this time, really. He certainly brought his baseball slide out this time, and those hits that he took in the first game, he didn't have this game. So it was a promising performance from Dart. I don't think it's not going to be one that lives in the memory if he ever makes the Hall of Fame or anything like this. But it still feels like there's a lot of promise there. We certainly felt like we were in the game still in the 4th. We had an opportunity to move the ball and this, that, and the other. Yes, ended up in interceptions, but like I don't think anyone would think that Russell Wilson would have commanded any kind of different result. Moving on to Scatterboo, he led the backfield once again, 59 yards on 15 carries. He added 6 for 49 receiving. Also, another highlight block on Wandale's 4th down conversion, taking Carl, 6'5", 250-pound Carl Granderson, and dumping him on his backside 3 yards beyond the line of the gain and absolutely demolishing a guy that's got much more stature on him, and just, you know, that sort of thing. It gets me really fired up about where we go. But we did miss, I think, Tracy's change of pace in the backfield. So a lot of our carries were all inside. We weren't necessarily able to run the kind of read option on the outside. I think maybe not this week on a short week, but when we get him back for the Broncos, I would imagine we'll see more of a 50-50 split between Scatterboo and Tracy to do offer something different. Singletary had some nice carries, but he doesn't really offer a difference to Scatterboo. It's a very similar playing style without maybe the highlight blocks. But you know, one of the things that we certainly saw from Scatterboo was the way he would finish his runs. So whether that was a head first dive, which I think I notice it. Maybe it's something that I pick up a little bit more having played the game, but he doesn't just fall forward. He actually launches himself forward, and he doesn't touch the ground until he finishes his dive. Whereas you see some of these guys reaching out for the line to gain or whatever, and their knee might touch down. He's perfectly flat, like he's Superman, super cam, trying to dive out to gain those yards, and he's gaining 1 or 2 extra yards every single time he's finishing a run like that, or he's finishing a run trucking someone, you know. So it's a really noticeable something that he does to finish his runs to maximize every single yard. And I think that's where we've briefly touched on it, but the support around Dart might be the concern for the rest of the season. So without Neighbours and possibly with Slayton's hamstring on a short week, we might be missing him 1 or 2 weeks as well. Bellinger did lead the team 4 for 52, and Theo Johnson went 6 for 33 with the 2 touchdowns. And Kev mentioned last week in the preview pod about the tight ends playing 2 tight ends and the tight ends stepping up. We certainly saw some of that, but you can do that maybe when you have a lead and playing in front. When you get behind, it does limit what you can do when someone's just playing back deep zone, letting everything be underneath. Hyatt was targeted 3 times, no receptions. Collins went 1 for 7 on 3 targets. And obviously the target that stood out was the one that he broke off the route and ended up in interception. So quick question for you, Craig. Do the Giants need to add wide receiver help for Dart, given our position that we're in?
Yes, I think we definitely do. Obviously, Shane might be a little bit more clued up on the terms of some of the people that we have on the practice squad in Dan and Cambry, but I still cannot fathom, and that's a very good point, Holty. I am doing the Giants a disservice with that 1436 Saints review at the bottom there. Good spot. I'm surprised Shane didn't pick up on that first and start grinning at me, knowing that it was coming. But I still cannot fathom why little Jordan Humphrey wasn't called up for this game from the practice squad, and that's kind of one thing that I want to maybe ask you two as a question off the back of this is at what point do we turn round? And do we have to really start calling out Joe Shane for his roster mismanagement that we see week in, week out? You know, we've got two running backs on the field. We've got 4 tight ends. We don't bring up a wide receiver. Slayton goes down. We end up with 3 receivers and Olszewski. The biggest problem we've got, though, is that who's out there? You've got the feel-good story with Odell Beckham. I get that. But then you look at the other 3 sort of top free agents that are available, Nelson Aguilar, Tyler Boyd, Jamison Crowder. All of them are there because they're pushing 30 or above and are not exactly lighting the world on fire at the teams that they're going to. You know, they're now starting to become that journeyman wide receiver and not really performing. I actually went through, because I'm stupid like this, and had a look at all 31 practice squads around the league. Shane, I'm going to ask you this one. I'm going to sort of hijack it a little bit. I'm going to give you 5 names. These are the 5 best wide receivers I could find on practice squads, and I want you to tell me if you would have any of them. Treadwell from the Colts.
No.
Miles Boykin, who's on the Bears practice squad. Paris Campbell's on the Cowboys.
No.
Isaiah Hodgins on the Steelers.
Yeah.
And Quez Watkins on the Eagles.
Isaiah Hodgins is the standout one for me. I don't understand why we've not tried to do something with him, even above the 3 guys that you mentioned that are over 30. At the end of the day, you've got a wide receiver who's been here under this regime, who knows the system a little bit, and who, okay, not in the following years, but the first year we brought him in as a free agent, he was a bit of a go-to guy, and you know what you get with him. He plays hard on every play. You know, I'm not saying he's elite. I'm not saying he's going to be Malik Neighbours and he's going to, be the guy that Dart needs, but he can offer so much more than Jalen fucking Hyatt at the minute. Why that guy's on the roster? Talk about roster mismanagement. Why is he still on the roster? Why have we not traded him? He's offering nothing. Like I didn't understand it in the off season. I still don't understand it now.
Yeah, and I think on top of Jalen Hyatt still being on the roster, Evan Neal's the other one, right? Why are these 2 guys still on our roster, contributing absolutely nothing and actually preventing us from retaining 2 players that we could have retained at cutdown day? Whether you were expecting to get something, whether you're expecting Neal to progress, I mean, he's not even been active, Neal, right? So that tells you where they think he ranks amongst their O-line. Yeah, I mean, maybe you don't save any money by cutting him, but you do make that roster spot available for a Smith Marset or another wide receiver out there to be on the squad. Shane, do you think it will impact Dart's development without having a decent receiving target out there for him?
I think the key is, and I know it sounds might be a bit strange, but Lil Jordan Humphrey, they had a lot of chemistry in pre-season. So I don't understand why, when you lose Malik Neighbours, okay, yeah, you got Slater and you got Wandale, but why not say, let's elevate a guy that you showed that you had some form of chemistry? If we go back to Daniel Jones' rookie year, Daniel Jones and Darius Slayton had a lot of chemistry when in both their rookie years. They were both drafted in the same year. And you could see that kind of, they always seem to have that chemistry right up until Daniel's last kind of year in the league. So for me, I just don't understand why you wouldn't elevate a guy that Jackson clearly showed he had some form of chemistry with during the pre-season to at least give him a bit of a safety blanket or a buffer zone or somebody that he knows how he's going to run. Because at the end of the day, you can design these routes, it's all well and good, but you do need to kind of be on a little bit of a wavelength with the players knowing where they like the ball, when they're likely to break out of a route or into a route. And I think that little Jordan Humphrey and Jackson Dart have had that. So I don't understand why it wasn't used the weekend.
Yeah, and I think it's it's really concerning the need to always use not to use the full depth of your roster in terms of the snap counts. I think we saw this last season in the top 3 wide receivers got the majority of the snap count. Compared to other teams, they spread the ball around much more, or the snap counts much more. We're very, very narrow focused on who we have, and we've seen that at all of our positions. The fact that we haven't called up a 3rd running back, the fact that we haven't seen any changes on the interior defense of the O-line. It's unusual, but that might not be a GM's decision. That might be a coach's decision, and everyone seems to think these 2 are hand in glove. They're together on all of these decisions, but it's uncommon for a roster to play such a high concentration of snaps with the players that are on that roster.
Here's one for you then. So the Giants decided to go with 4 tight ends at the weekend. Played 2 tight ends, a few jumbo packages. They've obviously got Manhurts, they got Bellinger, and they've got Theo Johnson playing. And then they decide to call up Thomas Fedone. Thomas Fedone makes a grand total of 6 special team snaps, and that's it. What was the point?
Yeah, I don't understand it. I don't understand it.
That's just something else that needs to be foiled in ridiculous things this head coaching staff seem to do that no one can ever explain, that you'll never get an answer to either.
No.
I guess finally to wrap up on offense, I haven't mentioned the O-line too much at the moment. I need to do a bit more tape review. I haven't looked at the all 11 yet. Obviously, being straight off one day and not really wanting to touch anything. Dart did have 1 sack, but that was actually his fumble was credited as a sack because it was a passing play that he decided to scramble and he dropped the ball behind the line, so it was credited as a sack. So the O-line didn't actually give up a sack. Some of that is down to Dart's movement. So there is an argument that sacks are a QB stat and not an O-line stat, and to some degree that's true when you've got a more evasive QB that we've seen from Dart taking the ball. When there's nothing on, he tucks it down and runs. But generally, I think it was okay. The run blocking wasn't fantastic. Say Cam relied on his falling forward to get his 3.9 yards per carry. I have a feeling, if I watch it in depth, that Greg Van Roten will still come up as a weak link. But I'll update people after I've watched the all 11, probably on our preview pod for the Eagles game. And with that, I'll hand it over to Shane to talk about defense.
Lucky me.
And yes, you do have to.
All right, so we're not all going to all talk bad stuff. Let's get the good stuff out of the way. So for the first time this season, we held an opposition to 100 yards on the ground. Yay! Woohoo! That's the end of the good stuff. That's out of the way now. Right then, let's get into the proper stuff. So all I heard pre-game was this D-line needs a nickname. This edge group needs a nickname. I'm sure we'll come up for a nickname during the game. Well, I'm not being funny. For all pressure and no sacks make Giants fans a fucking sad fan base. Then that doesn't sound quite catchy, does it? Because at the end of the day, this team does not generate the background's gone. That's something to do with me. This team does not generate enough results from the pressures. Yeah, okay, it's all getting pressures, but we're not getting home. It's not doing anything. We had the 3rd overall pick, the 5th overall pick, defensive tackle. Many of us call the best defensive tackle in the game, and another edge guy that we not only traded for but gave a huge contract to. And between them, they got 0 sacks, 0 quarterback hits, 5 hurries, and 2 tackle for losses. That's fucking embarrassing. Like, where's the investment in all this? Because we invest in all this and we're getting nothing from it. Like, we're just generating pressure after pressure. Now, for some stats, Rattler went 8 of 12 for 144 yards and a touchdown when under pressure. That's some fucking pressure. Like, he literally didn't complete 4 passes and still threw for a touchdown. Craig said me this earlier. Per Doug Analytics, Giants pressured Rattler on 55% of his dropbacks, and he's sacked 0 times on 17 pressures, which is the most pressures any defense has registered this year without a sack on the season. Look, what are we doing? What is the game plan here? And I don't blame the players. The talent is there. The ability is 100% there. It comes down to shit coaching. This defensive coordinator should not be here. And it's in my opinion, if Brian Dable wants to save his job this year, he needs to sack Shane Bowen soon, because that's going to cost him his job. Shane Bowen should have been gone in the offseason. Don't care what nobody says. I think many of us are in agreement that either the head coach goes or the DC goes. Somebody has got to go. The owner even come out and said, I'm fed up of watching teams move up and down the field on us. Well, guess what? Teams are still moving up and down the field on us. So, we're getting pissed off with it. Look, surely John Marrow's going to be pulling Brian Dable and go, Brian, number 1, take that stupid fucking hat off. Don't want to see you wearing that hat again. Number 2, what are we doing with the defensive coordinator? Like, you got to choose, Brian. It's either you're going to go and he'll go with you, or you make a decision and get rid of him now. because at the end of the day, he's not good enough. Now, Dex did just play 31 snaps. Obviously, he was limited by his illness that he was suffering this week, which meant Roy Robertson Harris had the most snaps out of all the defensive tackle guys. So, you know, Dex wasn't kind of at his best. He was kind of there and thereabouts, but he wasn't as active as he was last week. Like I say, he had an illness in the week, so that's kind of understandable to an extent. Now, if we move away from the coverage, let's talk about these defensive backs that we've got, because they ain't cutting it. Like, serious question needs to stop being asked about Tyler Newby. You know, he was one of the ones we expected to step up this year, kind of take the next step into his second year. And he's just not done it. You could argue, like many of Joe Shane's draft picks, he's regressing in his second season. And I'm fucking fed up of saying this about players. Oh, they're regressing in the second season. It's the same for every single draft pick that we seem to have. The only one who's not regressed is Malik Neighbours. That's because he's injured. Because if he were injured, I'm sure they'd do something to make him regress. But, you know, I will admit, Tyler Newby didn't really do much in his rookie season as well. But, you know, I'm just fed up of players regressing, you know. John Michael Schmidt, can we even call Jalen Hoyt regressing? I don't know. But, you know, Thibodeau, Evan Neal somehow got worse after his rookie year. Like every single draft pick, Dan Bellinger, they all just seem to regress in the second year. Ty Banks, and then when I talk about Ty Banks, I'm out, I'm done. Get rid of him, cut him. I do not want Ty Banks on this team anymore. Get him out of here. I don't want him on cornerback. I don't want him on special teams. I don't want him returning a punt. But Holty's nailed it there. First round pick on a kick returner. Fuck off. What are we doing there? That's just embarrassing, man. Like, can we stop with the rotation of him and Flott? He's not good. Ty Banks comes in, and I swear every time he steps onto that field, he's like, what can I do to get a flag thrown here? What can I do? Gosh, should I hold? Look, get him up. I do not want to see him in a rotation again. I don't want to see him on the team anymore. Like, take the number 3 jersey off him or number 2, whatever the fuck he's wearing these days, and just get rid of him. Do not want to see him on the roster anytime soon. Drew Phillips, fucking Jekyll and Hyde or what? Like, you know, I seen a tweet just by Bobby Skinner saying that he's given up the 4th most yards for cornerbacks and has the most penalties in the NFL. But he's also second in pass breakups with 5, and he's tied for 5th with 2 interceptions. Like, you just don't know what Drew Phillips you're going to get. Like, it's like he takes a shot on the sideline and thinks, fuck it, let's go and get a flag thrown. And then he goes back on, he goes, fuck, I shouldn't have done that. Let's go and pass a break. Let's go and break a pass up next play. And then kind of, it isn't all on the defense, this next point. But we currently have 43 penalties on the season, which is second through the league at the moment. 16 have come from defensive backs. Are they having a challenge with each other in the meeting room every week? Fucking, what can we do next to get a flag thrown? Where I can flag you this week? Like, what the fuck are we doing? 4 are from Banks, as I mentioned, 7 are through Phillips. But like, why? Just what are we doing with this defense? Like, I don't fucking understand it. Like, we can't generate pressure. We can generate flags, and we just seem to have players regressing every year. The one good point I will mention, I thought the linebackers were okay. They were quite active. I thought Darius Musa did all right, to be fair to him, for like a 6th-round draft pick, wherever he was, and was kind of someone who was pretty much drafted to be on special teams. But like, kind of on that point, like I mentioned about, I don't fucking know. Don't know what I mentioned about, but why are we not elevating more linebackers? Why are we only going onto the roster with 2 linebackers like this weekend, like in Akereke and Muasau? Yeah, okay, you can move Abdul Carter into there, but you don't want to make a regular occurrence that put Abdul Carter in his best position, which is going to be going after the quarterback, generating pressure, but actually getting a sack, not just generating pressure and that's it. So I'd like to have seen more linebackers kind of activated in the roster this week. But like, other than that, the defense were too bad.
I think you've come across saying that they were perfectly fine this game, and we have nothing to worry about.
Bar the pressures, the cornerbacks, the lack of linebacker.
Yeah. So Bobby Okereke played 66 snaps, which I think was every snap on defense, along with Paulson Adebo, Tyler Nubin, and Javon Holland. Musa played 46 snaps. I'm not seeing a second linebacker at all on the
I
snap
don't
count
think
for
we
the defense.
I
I
think
think we did.
Neville
We
Hewitt
had,
was
yeah.
he?
So Neville
Swayze
Hewitt,
Bozeman.
Swayze Bozeman got injured during the game, and Neville Hewitt sounds like a fucking polo player, let alone a NFL linebacker. But yeah, he had his third practice squad call up, but he played special teams, played 18 snaps on special teams.
But then let's say Kereke or Musa went and got injured. How does that fucking look on the regime, letting them play fucking over 100 snaps between them? Like, again, it's more questionable decisions by the coach.
Yeah. It's certainly the thinnest position on the team, and I kind of see why. In the draft they didn't address it because of everything else, and obviously we had an injury at linebacker in game one that's already reduced us, but it was already the thinnest position on the team. The only thing I can think of is they've gone, well, we don't need to strengthen there because Carter can play middle linebacker in a pinch when we need him to, but he's been so destructive as an edge. You are hampering yourself taking him out of that edge rotation and taking him out of that position to play him at middle linebacker, but he can probably be your fourth string middle linebacker in a way that you would, if you had a Taysom Hill on your team as your emergency quarterback.
I think the most annoying thing was, like you said at the start, Mayo, he's like, the first drive, the defense was like, okay, yeah, we're on it today. We're gonna be pressuring these. The Saints look pretty shit. We went then and scored, and it was like, yeah, okay, this is looking really good, and it was just dropped off monumentally. It was like they just decided not to bother playing after that kind of first drive, really.
Yeah, I think we saw. I think the Saints got some home field decisions. That first drive, the first third down, Burns is round the edge, and there's a clear hold in the end zone. It should have been flagged. It should have been a safety, but it doesn't explain, like you say, the lack of converting pressures into sacks, into turnovers. Into picks, there wasn't even like a dropped interception. There was one a Debo was maybe close on that Spencer when the receiver falls down and a Debo's in the range, but it's not really a chance for an interception. So, and it goes back to maybe Rattler's comments before the game where he said, "Oh, the coverage is really easy to read," and if you're getting a lot of pressure, but you're not having to try and diagnose the coverage because you know exactly what's coming at you. It's one way. Well, that would be one reason why those pressures don't turn into sacks, because it's all right. It's not. You're not really under pressure if you're just letting a play develop and you have confidence that you're beating the coverage scheme. I mean, Raheed Shaheed was so open on his touchdown, and presumably that was something that they had schemed up in the play. So yeah, it's one of those things. I did notice it last week actually. The one hole I have on maybe Carter's game is his finishing on the play. So he was clean through on a QB. On Herbert the other week, and if that was JJ Watt or TJ Watt or Myles Garrett, you tend to see them do that kind of club for the ball. Rather than just have hit the QB, they go for the ball and knock the ball out of the hand or play for the arm so that the QB can't throw forward. And I noticed Carter doesn't do that. So I think obviously he was only a pass rusher right at the end of his college career. And he's got all the moves to beat the O-lineman, but he maybe doesn't have the full suite of finishes to really be devastating in the game. And, he's a rookie. Like, we can't expect him to be he's already exceeded expectations of where he is in the pressure ranks and this kind of thing. But I think the one area of his game that he will need to work on is that finishing.
It'd be beneficial if they did like an edge U, the way they do a tight end U, and say like, Miles Garrett and JJ Watt, for instance, says, you know what, every year we're going to get a few edge guys together, and you can learn off them, kind of iron sharpens iron, a little bit like they do with the tight end, the tight end guys do.
Yeah, it's all round. It's just embarrassing at the moment, and I just don't trust the coaching staff to be able to make those kind of adjustments and coach the players in the way that they should be to be able to do that. I was watching the Giant Insider podcast earlier, and one of the things they were saying about the pressure is the fact that, yes, we aren't finishing, but the biggest thing is that Spencer Rattler was able to get the ball out so quickly because we played man coverage, but the wide receivers were always getting open. So when they're always getting open, the pressure doesn't have a chance to finish. And that's the biggest problem we have at the moment, is the fact that our defensive backfield is playing so poor that our edge rushers are suffering because of it, because they're not being given the time to really go in. And we were talking about it before we came on air, Aaron, as well. Like, props to Kelvin Banks Jr., their rookie left tackle, because he did stand up Carter a few times. He didn't fall for his spin move. And their entire offensive line did play well. But it's a starting offensive line. You see what happens when the Giants can take advantage of a weakened defensive line like they had against the Chargers, and so they should do. But when you're playing against starters, we're obviously going to keep finding it a little bit more difficult. There was a comment from Keith earlier, Shane. I'm going to throw it across to you. Hire a fucking head coach, not another promising coordinator. Look at what the Giants players can do on other teams with good coaching. Now, we've obviously spoken about this before, and we spoke about what happened with Barkley, what happened with McKinney. Sterling Shepard's playing very, very well over at the Bucks, even as a fourth or third wide receiver over there. Leonard Williams has been absolutely phenomenal over at Seattle, as has Julian Love. We could keep going with obviously more players there. We have a real issue with coaching at this team, basically. Is what Keith's saying right? Next time that we hire somebody, we need to step away from these Pat Shermers, these Joe Judges, these Brian Dable kind of promising coordinators who need to take that next step? And do we just need to reset and go, look, we need to get somebody in who has been there, done that, and can steady this shit before we can start looking at reinventing the wheel again?
Absolutely. I mean, I think Ryan Belichick is one of the ones you've got to be looking at.
Don't you start. Don't you? Absolutely fishing there.
No, but in all seriousness, I said in the off season, Brian Dable should have been sacked, and I'd have gone for Mike Vrabel. I'd have gone for an head coach that has got experience, has got playoff history. He's been in the playoffs a few times. He's won the playoff games. I think I could be wrong on that though. But that's the kind of guy I 100% would have gone for. I'd have got rid of Brian Dable. I'd have gone to Mike Vrabel. Right, what's it going to take to bring you to the Giants? We want a head coach that's kind of got some form of experience. I'm fed up with these Mickey Mouse experiments with coordinators now. I don't know who we could potentially get. Now, I've seen some rumours, or not rumours, but I've seen some Giants fans talking on Twitter about potentially Harbour from the Ravens. I believe Ravens fans are getting a little bit disgruntled with him, and there's a little bit of chatter. How much chatter there is, no idea. That maybe he could be on his way out. Like, if someone like that becomes available, you have to go for a guy like that. Like that's a kind of caliber I want us to bring in. I don't want to be looking at a special teams coordinator and elevating them, nor a head coach, nor an OC or a DC. Let's get someone in who's been a head coach before, who's won somewhere before, who knows how to handle players, and bring them in and see what we can do. Because I'm not being funny. We're trying these ways and it's not working. How many more times do we have to do it until the fucking light bulb goes off and we go, ding, ding, actually, you know what? These coordinators are working. Let's give the tried and tested route.
There's a little bit of hilarity in what you said there with let's not go for a special teams coordinator and then talking about John Harbaugh, who was a special teams coordinator, but he is a proven head coach. Obviously, he's been with the Ravens now since 2008, so I would go there. There's a few people being brought up in the comments. One of them I'm not even going to entertain there, in Mike McCarthy. I mean, Gruden loves Jackson Dart almost as much as Brian Dable does. So, but I can't see Gruden playing head coaching in the NFL. Aaron, I don't know how much you'll know about this. This might be one more for Shane, but anyone worth looking in college football level? Or is that another risk, going from the college to the pros? Is that another risk that we maybe can't afford to take right now?
I'd be more comfortable with a coordinator coming from college than a head coach. But maybe Nick Saban's fed up of sitting next to Pat McAfee on College Game Day and wants to have another crack at the NFL. Maybe he can get the best out of an Alabama guard tackle reject. Although I don't think he'll be on the team next season. So it's really difficult, right? From an outsider, it's very difficult to see what's going on. I've played under a number of head coaches, and different styles work for some players, work for different players. You can win under very different styles of head coaches. I think what we've seen in New York, though, is some challenges around the supporting cast or the relationships with other coaches and getting the best out of coaches. We've known Kafka hasn't been the most happy as staying on as OC, but hasn't had an opportunity to step up to head coach anywhere. Wink obviously got out as soon as he could. Maybe he's an option. That he's been someone that's been wanting a head coach opportunity. Maybe you bring him back as a head coach and let him run the team. I'm not opposed to a defensive head coach after all of these offensive attempts and bringing a really high spec coordinator. That if the coordinator does a really good job and gets a head coaching job in 2 seasons time, fine, right? But I'm kind of okay with that. It's a challenge. Go back to the defense. I'm fed up with this scheme on defense. It's a terrible scheme. I've hated it since game 1. I would be looking to change this as soon as possible. The excuses of players not developing in year 2, a lot of the excuses they've had is, we're playing a different scheme. That was an excuse for Banks, who went from Martindale's scheme over to Bowen's scheme. The guys have played in the same scheme this year as they played last year, and we're not seeing some of the improvement, or we're not seeing an improvement on that secondary. We've invested a lot in that secondary, and it's just not working for the way we do it. I do think we went into the game to stop the run and to try and stop the run, and I think that's why we played a lot more man. I think I noticed we had 3 safeties on the field a little bit more as well. I don't know if that comes up in the numbers, Craig, but I'm sure I saw Belton and on the field a few times, and that might explain the some of the reason why we've had a subtle shift in scheme to try and stop the run, but it tilted too far to just open up the pass. And I say the defense, it wasn't horrendous from the defense. The defense only gave up 19 points. The additional points came from a fumble 6. 19 points should be good enough in the league. I think what we're missing though is that complementary football, that explosiveness. That the Saints did miss 2 field goals that helped us a little bit as well. So. And you can't always rely on people missing field goals, even if they are from 60-something yards, as we all know as Dome fans.
So if you look at the safety snaps, Holland and Newman, 66, as I said earlier, which is every snap on defense. Belton played 20, so you're looking at almost 1/3 of the snaps there. We probably had a 3 safety look, but the biggest thing that fucks me off is the fact that when you look at that and you are right. We've gone into this game going right. We need to stop the run. Is there any chance we could maybe be a good defense and do both? Like, is there any danger in us being able to not just sell out on the run and get cooked by the pass, or have a shit run defense? Like, is there any chance that we could maybe just do both kind of averagely?
Yeah, why does it have to be one or the other?
Yeah, like, most other teams out there could probably do it, and it's the same. It's the same with our offensive play. We've struggled with rushing for years. Even with Saquon Barkley, we struggled with rushing because of our offensive line. We've slowly started to get a better offensive line now in pass protection, but we're still not amazing at run blocking. It just seems like we are a one-dimensional defense and partially a one-dimensional offense when we need to be, and we can't be more than that. It is frustrating. Before we go, there's just one other kind of point I wanted to make. Chris Bisognano said that when Tyrone Tracy comes back, Tyrone Tracy should be running back 1 and Cam Scatterbo should be running back 2, because he is not a lead back. He is somebody who will supplement or complement the offense with what he is able to bring. Shane, I'll go to you first because Aaron's obviously got his love hat on for Scatterbo and the jersey in the background there. But would you agree with that? Do you think this needs to be Tyrone Tracy as the lead back? I know we kind of touched on it a little bit earlier.
I think for me, I do like Scatterbo as a complimentary back. My problem is I don't trust Tyrone Tracy as an RB1. If it was somebody else, let's say he still had a Saquon, for instance, or maybe a Joe Mixon or J.K. Dobbins, obviously injured, etc. But if you had that kind of guy that's kind of proven, I would. But I don't trust Tyrone Tracy as an RB1, in all honesty. So for me, I think I'd just rather keep it as a 50-50 split at the minute still.
Yeah, I think having a committee running back is perfectly fine, and I think Tracy and Cam Scatterbo, they got 2 clear different roles. I mean, look at the Lions with Gibbs and Montgomery, like everyone's saying, oh, Gibbs needs more touches, but Montgomery doesn't go anywhere, and they're running. They've been putting up points like nobody's business in this league over the last 2 years, and I think there's no reason why that doesn't work as good or better than having a number 1 guy who, if you get dinged up, you're out of luck. You've got no one. Here our number 1 guy's got dinged up, and we haven't really had a drop off in kind of our running back play. Yes, we're a bit more one-dimensional with not having the long speed or maybe the outside toss sweep zone type stuff going on. But I think personally, I don't think there's anything wrong with the running back by committee, drafting a new guy every single year and see if you can add to that back room. Like, honestly, because there's so many good running backs in college and we've seen so many late round guys. Look at Woody Marks this last week in Houston, and we've seen guys go from the 6th, 7th round constantly and put up 100 yards in a game off of something. And I think honestly, your money's better spent elsewhere on the team. Would you rather have running back by committee and keep Kayvon, Burns, and Carter together, or would you rather have put 15-20 million into one guy at the running back position? Like that's where your decisions are going to come. And I think you can get enough good play out of a committee. I don't want Cam to be the number 1 running back for us. He needs a burner complement. Like if he's Montgomery, he needs a Gibbs, right? We do need that complementary back in that backfield. But I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
It will stop Cam from getting CTE as well.
And just one quick one that I had that's just popped up. We talked about a receiver. Would you trade Kayvon Thibodeau for a starting receiver? So I saw mention that you could do Thibodeau for Ayuk, for example. Would you do that? And do you think it's more important for Dart's development to have that, or is it more important for the Giants to have the best D-line in the league?
Go on, Trey.
I think for me, it's what we're on week 5. Trade deadline, is it week 9 these days now? Did they move it back a week, or is it still week 8?
It's only a couple of weeks away. It's end of the month, basically, isn't it?
Yeah, I think I'd rather see what's on the waiver wire, see where we can get anything going there first. Then maybe you have a conversation with Thibodeau and say, look, where are we at with a contract extension? What kind of numbers are you going to be looking at? Is it something that's financially doable? If not, then okay, maybe I do look at moving him on, because we don't want to franchise you. Don't want to go down the franchise route again. We've had that with 2 previous players who are no longer on the team. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole again. So I think, see what you can get off the waiver wire. If that doesn't work, speak to Thibodeau. What does he want contract extension wise? If it's something ridiculous, then see what we can do in terms of a trade.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with that. And just looking it up, November 4th. So we've got time. We've got time.
Luckily, we've got 3 easy opponents coming up. One that was undefeated, and then the team that defeated them. And then
that team who were undefeated again. So that does mean it's only.
Before we go, we're going to, in the very near future, we're going to be having probably a very good conversation about Brian Dable. But just before we go, one for both of you. Is Jackson Dart's development going to be enough to keep Brian Dable for you guys?
No. But developing Jackson Dart is going to be enough to keep Brian Dable here this season, which is why he won't get fired in season.
Oh, we won't. He ain't going to get fired in season because we're too classy.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it won't just be Brian Dable. It won't just be the development of Jackson Dart that's required to keep his job. I think we have to come and win some games down the stretch. We have to have players not quit. If players quit at any point, then I'd be really concerned to say that you need to change the regime. I'm not out on Dable. I'm kind of indifferent because I've kind of seen this whole coaching carousel thing not work as well. Having said that, the lack of wins over 3 seasons will not be enough to just keep your job on a Jackson Dart development. Having said that, like you say, changing the scheme from a guy that's played 1 year in the league is usually not a good recipe either, right? Usually you want the guy to think, but we do have the option that, and I looked at this earlier. Even though we've got 1 win, we're actually picking 8th in the draft because of so many teams with. The Jets have 0 wins, and then there's 7 teams with 1 win, and because of our strength of schedule, that means we pick last out of them. So, but there is an option to potentially just do the full reset and reset a quarterback as well. I'm not one to say that we give up on Dart, but sometimes you go, well, it's a new scheme, new regime. You guys come in and pick the quarterback that you want from day one, and away you go. I think that would be a shame. I think it'd be better picking a wide receiver, a linebacker, a cornerback one. It'd be better spending that top 10 pick that we're likely to have on adding to this squad and not having to start again at quarterback, but don't rule it out.
It's the beginning of October and we're already talking about draft picks.
Yes.
It's like we've never left, Shane. It's like we've never left.
It's like a parallel universe.
It's Groundhog Day, isn't it? But it's just a year that just repeats itself over and over again.
So how long until this just becomes a draft podcast?
He's very, very, very close. It's something I've already been drafting up little ideas of how we can maybe make it a little bit more entertaining. But I just feel like every year it's getting a week earlier. Like, last year it might have been, say, middle of October. Now it's the start of October. Technically, after yesterday's result, it was 5 days into October. And, Mayo's already doing mock drafts today.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's fucking the first 5 days in October. We've not even made it halfway to Halloween in this month, and we're already doing it. It's just the same shit repeated over and over again, and it's just getting demoralising. At this point.
I have to say, I did draft 3 tackles, a guard, and a centre before I even looked at another position change. So I think you'd give that an A+.
I just want to say you drafted a tackle from Alabama, which is, I think, Shane. That's one of Shane's no-goes now.
No, that's never happening now. That's what TCU wide receivers that is.
I did draft him to play guard.
That makes it all right. I'm sure he'll work out.
Unfortunately, on that note, that is all the time we have for this week. However, we'll be back on Wednesday or Thursday, still trying to iron that out, to preview our game against the Eagles, which is on Thursday Night Football. Woo! Anything to...
As well, I'm on nights Thursday nights.
So you can watch it.
You know what I mean? When I'm on nights on Thursday night, I like watching Thursday night football. I'm not going to like watching Thursday night football this week. I do not want to watch it.
So what you're saying is you're not predicting a win this week?
I don't know. I don't want to predict this week. The Giants are literally slowly breaking me, man, mentally. Like, Craig will know that. He's snog, marry, avoid on, or kiss something at first sight or something. Is that, can I watch that on catch up? Because I think I'd rather watch that at this point than fucking the New York Giants.
Did you say I would know?
Yeah.
Why would I know?
Oh, come on, Craig.
Kev is the one. Kev's the one who's admitted that he watches it.
We're all mates here.
Kev's taking strays. He's not even on the phone.
It's not like we're live on social media. You stay between us, honestly. Just
no.
Message me.
I'd rather watch anything than that trash.
Including the Giants?
Yes.
It's close. No, it's close.
I would rather watch the quarterback sneak from our own... within our own 5-yard line than watch any of that crap.
I would just watch shorts of Cam Scatterboo. I'd last about 5 minutes.
Anything else to add before we go? Or should we end it on that?
Yeah, let's end it on that wonderful thought for everyone to be imagining.
As always, remember to like this video and subscribe to us on YouTube. You can hit the bell to be notified of when we're live. If you aren't already, follow us on the socials at the bottom and rate us on your podcast platform of choice. As Keith says, on that bombshell, my thanks go to Shane and to Aaron for joining me tonight. We are signing off until next time. And for some reason, as always, let's go Giants.